good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM and 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kazmi 107.1 FM and across the country at shrenews.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. 2024 Auditor-General's report uncovers 8.1 billion Ghana cedis in fictitious debts in review of 68.7 billion public claims.
A total of 8.1 billion Ghana cedis was rejected for various reasons, including unsupported documentation, duplication, overstatement, already paid items.
Also on the program, government freezes nearly 50 million Ghana cedis belonging to NPP Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Antwi-Boasiako, also known as Chairman Wontumi, in ongoing investigations into selected financial crimes.
For instance, in Chairman Wontumi's case alone, close to 50 million Ghana cedis of money in his account has been frozen. Similar figures are involved in the Dubuahin case, for instance, in the National Service case, and many others.
And much later on the program, Minister for Roads and Highways Kwame Agbodza says the recent road works at the Tetteh Quashie interchange in Accra, which has been suspended temporarily, is being reviewed and would resume soon.
We took a decision to, for instance, redirect traffic around Tetteh Quashie for a very important exercise. We could carry out that exercise, the first phase, without the diversion, but it's risky.
Thank you very much for joining us on the program. A comprehensive audit of government arrears as of end 2024 has uncovered billions of cedis in fraudulent claims, non-existent debt, and missing state resources. The 2024 Auditor-General's report uncovers 8.1 billion Ghana cedis in fictitious debt in review of 68.7 billion Ghana cedi public claims. The Ghana Audit Service, supported by EY and PwC, examined 68.7 billion Ghana cedis in unpaid invoices and bank transfer advices. Now, the findings were grim. While 45.4 billion Ghana cedis was validated, a massive 8.1 billion Ghana cedis was outright rejected due to overstatement, duplications, and falsified documentation. Furthermore, 13.3 billion Ghana cedis remains unvalidated due to lack of third-party confirmation or supporting contracts. Here is Deputy Minister of Finance Thomas Nyakwampi delivering a statement on the floor of Parliament on Tuesday.
Out of the 68.7 billion Ghana cedis submitted for audit, a total of 45.4 billion Ghana cedis was deemed to be valid for payment. A total of 8.1 billion Ghana cedis was rejected for various reasons, including unsupported documentation, duplication, overstatement, already paid items, falsified stores receipt advice, and no work done. About 1 billion Ghana cedis of the outstanding BTAs, which refers to invoices and IPCs processed by MDAs in 2024, approved by Ministry of Finance, submitted to Controller and Accountant General's Department, and pending payment were rejected. Mr. Speaker, this 1 billion Ghana cedis that was rejected by the audit would have been paid if the Ministry of Finance had not made a bold decision to stop payment in January 2025.
And I heard that the Deputy Finance Minister, Thomas Nyako, meanwhile, anti-corruption crusader and legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi has criticized the government for failing to prosecute individuals cited in financial infractions.
Clear my point that we cannot falsely be accusing people when we do not have any basis for doing so, which is why I'm insisting that all those who were accused, all those who were mentioned in the oral report, all those that we suspect to have committed corruption, we need to put them before court. I admit that white-collar jobs are very difficult to investigate and to prosecute, but that should not be an excuse for for us to sit down for almost 1.5 years. If we accuse people, let them be prosecuted so they get vindicated or convicted. This is what we should be doing. We should walk the talk. It is part of how we sanitize the system. So we don't go around accusing people falsely when they have not done anything wrong. This is why I insist and call on the Attorney General, the government, to put all those that we accuse of corruption, whether in the form of, whether they came as part of the oral report or they came through all the public accusations we made during the electioneering campaign, or they came through any other means, tip-off or otherwise. Let us put all of them before court today.
And you heard Justice Abdullah. He's a private legal practitioner and lecturer at the UPSA. Let's speak to Yunus Hussaini, who is a private legal practitioner and former member of Parliament for Tamale Central. He joins us live on the phone. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The Auditor-General's 2024 report has revealed about 8.1 billion Ghana cedis in fictitious debt out of the 68.7 billion Ghana cedi arrears reviewed. I'm wondering what your immediate reaction is to these findings.
Well, I was shocked. And anytime I read the report, it never ceases to amaze me that we could bring this upon ourselves. That who were these officers who were approving the payments? How come the Ministry of Finance could not detect that some payments were unsupported, some payments were unjustified, and they forwarded the claims to the auditor, the Accountant General for payment? How come that they forwarded bank transfer advices for payments for services and contracts entered into by the 1D, 1F when there was none existed, when such contracts were not existed, and the banks did not know that their banks had been used as a conduit for the payments? How come that some money was alleged to have been transferred to a bank when the bank did not know of such payment? They had not received that payment, but there was entry that such payment had been made to a bank account for $10 million, 10 million Ghana cedis. How come that under the 1D, 1F, more than $7 million was paid as advance payment to contractors for no work done or for insignificant work done by the previous government? And I'm even more mortified. This is arrears. These are arrears. These are claims that have not been paid, that have not been paid, that the contractors and people behind those claims are claiming that government owes them, the state owes them, and ought to pay them. Can you imagine the amount of money that passed through the same officers that were legally and legitimately paid? Can you imagine? In the 8 years of Nana Akufo-Addo's administration.
It's a shame that we seem to have these reports come out almost every year from the Auditor-General. But from a legal and governance standpoint, really, how serious is the discovery of such a large amount of fraudulent or unsupported public claims?
Well, it destroys the confidence. From the governance point of view, it destroys the confidence of the people in government and in our democracy. It destroys it. You see, democracy itself is founded on trust. A trust relationship between the people and the people they have elected to govern the country for a certain period of time. It's based on trust. That when the people give you their trust to govern the country, you will do so. That brings prosperity and equality of opportunity to them. You will do so managing the resources of the country prudently. You will do so not engaging in corrupt activities. It's a trust relationship. So when that trust is broken, it undermines the democratic foundation of states.
And now the audit.
From a legal point of view,
sure,
there is impunity. So how come that all this went on and the people who caused those financial crimes are still walking about in our midst? It emboldens other wrongdoers from also pursuing that path. it encourages impunity from a legal point of view.
Impunity, you say, but this government says that it is ready to deal with such impunities that we've seen over the years, the reason for the establishment of oral, among others. But again, the audit found overstatement, duplications, and falsified documentation. What criminal or civil offenses could these actions potentially really constitute under the law? You're a lawyer.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, without even seeing those people behind the commission of those offenses, I mean, if you issue duplicated, falsified documents, I mean, it's a crime. It's a crime. And under the Criminal and Other Offences Act.
How do we deal with this now? Because you talked about impunity, and again, I said that this government says that it wants to deal with such by the establishment of oral. A number of people are asking for actions to be done. Now we have an example. What do you expect?
So the Auditor-General's report will be sent immediately to to the Attorney General's Department. Immediately, for further studies. The report has been redacted, and also we don't know the people, the faces behind the crimes that have been committed. We don't know the names behind the crimes that have been committed. So is the Attorney General looking at the investigations and seeing the people who did what they did in the redacted report that was sent to us, to hold those people accountable. And we need to do that fast.
We need to do that fast. Thank you very much, Mr. Fuseni, for speaking to us.
Thank you.
And I had Yusuf Fuseni, former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, also former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and he's equally a lawyer. Let's stay on governance issues because government spokesperson Felix Kwachie has disclosed that nearly 50 million Ghana cedis belonging to Bernard Antwi-Boasiako, also known as Chairman Wontumi, has been seized and frozen as part of ongoing investigations into suspected financial crimes. He said the action was taken by the Economic and Organised Crime Office, EOCO, as authorities moved to secure funds believed to be linked to ongoing investigations.
For instance, in Chairman Wontumi's case alone, close to 50 million Ghana cedis of money in his account has been frozen. Similar figures are involved in the Adu case, for instance, in the National Service case, and many others. Indeed, there were those who accused the president of misleading them when he said that EOCO had, as it were, recovered 600 million Ghana cedis. That was in respect of the normal everyday cases that EOCO handles, because they deal with issues of money laundering, cyber crime, cross-border crime, carjacking, and what have you. So those are regular things that they do. But in respect of oil, they are not going to be able to recover until the persons involved have been convicted by a court. That then will give them the legal remits to recover whatever it is that is alleged to have, or the court would have found to have been stolen. But for now, what they can do is to freeze it. And they have done it. 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. That is what the situation. And this is even for the cases that they've been able to touch. Those that they've not touched, they are still in the process of tracing these assets. You know that any time that anybody comes under investigation or is undergoing prosecution, they do concurrent tracing of assets so that as much as possible, we secure what we believe will be commensurate to the amounts involved in offenses that would have been.
And you heard that Felix Kwachie, he's the government spokesperson. In another development, private legal practitioner Andy Apiakubi, who is also the lawyer for the embattled MPP Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Antwi-Boasiako, or Chairman Wontumi, has accused the Attorney General of being bent on prosecuting individuals cited in corruption charges despite the lack of evidence. This is after the Office of the Special Prosecutor dropped the charges against one of the directors of KEL Logistics Limited, Albert Accra, after the fourth accused agreed to testify as a prosecution witness in the ongoing criminal case against former MPA CEO Mustafa Hamid and 9 others. The OSP also last year dropped charges against former general manager of Akonta Mining, Edward Akwoko, after he agreed to testify as state witness against his former boss. The Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Agbodza, says the recent road works at the Tetteh Quashie interchange in Accra, which has been suspended temporarily, is being reviewed and would soon resume. The minister, however, explained that the exercise could not be undertaken without restricting traffic because the beams involved are extremely heavy and could pose serious risks. He gave the explanation when the Vice President, Professor Nana Jenopo-Kwajiman, visited the ministry earlier today.
Indeed, we want to encourage the public to be patient with us. We don't do anything with the aim to make your work or your life more difficult. A few days ago, we took a decision to, for instance, redirect traffic around Tetteh Quashie for a very important exercise. We could carry out that exercise, the first phase, without the diversion. But it's risky because we are launching beams that are very heavy and can actually crash articulated track and kill people in it. But when we attempted the first night, we saw the negative impact. We quickly pulled back, and now today or tomorrow we'll have a review to see whatever strategy we'll use. But whatever we do, it will still impede the flow of traffic. We are just appealing to the public. We cannot do that work without you being ready to spend a little bit more time in traffic when you are traversing that corridor.
And you heard that the roads minister, Kwame Agbodza. The minority leader, Alexander Apanyumakin, has called for the scrapping of the artificial intelligence aptitude test used in the ongoing recruitment into Ghana security services, citing major challenges faced by applicants. The NPP MP says that the barrage of complaints from the constituent on the ongoing recruitment is unbearable, as several people were disqualified during the recruitment process due to difficulties encountered with the online testing system. We stay on him because Mr. Alexander Apanyumakin is also alleging that there's a scheme in Parliament to stifle the voice of the NPP group by the continuous failure of the House to prioritize the concerns of the minority. The minority leader says that a motion his side has failed in the House to investigate the dismissal of persons employed under the NPP has still not been fully debated, despite it appearing on the order paper consistently. He was speaking at the Crystal Ball series organized by the Citizens Bureau of Parliament, and we'll bring you that sound later. But in other news, Vice President of the Licensed Surveyors Association of Ghana, Stephen Jagba, says only 15% of land in Ghana have been mapped, thus compounding the problems associated with land ownership. Speaking on TV3's agenda with me last night, Mr. Jagba said that the digital mapping of land will help in land governance systems. The government recently announced a comprehensive overhaul of Ghana's land administration system to include a review of 8,160 public land lease applications. Let's hear exactly what Mr. Jagba said last night.
If you look at from 1962 up to date, we've not had any digital map that will be able to define where each land and who owns are being located. It is done in very nucleus way. So if you own land, it should be done digitally, where Land Commission that keeps records of land will be able to know who owns what. The law is very good passed, but some of the components that needs to be used to be able to govern the land is not ready. As we speak, our LI that relate to 1036 is not completed. Then also, one of the issues within the law is that you cannot sell land when it is not being mapped. And currently, most of the land we have in Ghana, I would say, has not been mapped. We have only less than 15% of the land purely mapped out. So if you have this, it's a huge challenge. Because if you don't have the map to know who the chiefs, the landowners, or the family heads, their boundaries are, then the 1036 will have a big challenge to address.
Well, also speaking on the same platform, a former lead at the mapping division of the Lands Commission, Stephen Adu, said part of the problems is the issues of inheritance associated with the ownership of lands in Ghana.
Land ownership in Ghana now basically resides with the chiefs and public interests. With the chiefs, to a large extent, sometimes the inheritance of who succeeds the other becomes a problem. Because we don't have a clear cut of inheritance processes. Who succeeds who? And at what time does that person takes charge? All these things are non-existent. If the traditional authorities are recording inheritance of each family, of course, if there are problems, it will be realized that this or that Kwesi or Kwame will not have the right to sell. But since these things are vacant, it becomes a problem. And this one will as well increase our problems, particularly with land guarding.
And you heard there Stephen Adu. He's a former lead at the Mapping Division of the Lands Commission. 20 minutes past the hour of 12. You're still here on the Midday News on Shri FM 92.7. Now, security experts are warning that illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey, is no longer just an environmental concern in Ghana, but gradually evolving into a major national security threat. Speaking at the Ashanti Regional Validation and Dialogue Workshop on the safety and security ecosystem of illegal mining, the Commandant of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Vice Marshal David Annette Akong, said the influence of illegal mining is now shaping power structures, economic activity, and community authority in several mining areas.
In some districts, the persistence of illegal mining activities has contributed to the emergence of informal power structures that operate alongside and at times in competition with former state institutions. Over time, this dynamic can weaken trust in regulation, enforcement, and public administration, while complicating the work of those institutions tasked with maintaining order, protecting communities, and regulating the sector.
And you have security, the Commandant of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Vice Marshal David Annette Akong. Some politics now at the national chairman of the governing National Democratic Congress, Johnson Asiedu-Nkatia, has made a stop at Medina as part of his regional thank you tour in the Greater Accra region. The tour is to thank the community for the contribution to the NDC's massive win in the 2024 general election. Asiedu-Nkatia said that despite praise on His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, supporters of the party feel disgruntled because they have not been appointed job roles after the NDC returned to power. He said the National Democratic Congress would not want to make same mistakes. He asked dissatisfied party supporters of the NDC to be patient and assured them that their needs would be attended to in time.
The party for they bring a complaint that President Mahama Ghana force or yard here. Now, you party for no, you don't buy no day, no. That's how I'm so, I just say, no bread. Say Bibia in free form and sana yafro. I don't know. Say ye buy no. Yanso ye ba say ye ba be party for no kwa. Kagana for betrans ye bisa say NDC any MPP kura and so ye be in the womb.
I am aware that despite praise for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, some of our supporters feel disgruntled because they have not been appointed job roles since we returned to office. It was our collective decision to reduce the size of government to 60 ministers. We constantly criticized the NPP's 125 appointment as excessive, and we will not make the same mistake. The previous NPP administration failed because their appointments were based on party relations rather than competence. That brought shame to their government and led them out of power. We in the National Democratic Congress will not follow that path. To our dissatisfied supporters, I ask you to be patient. Your need would be attended to.
And you had the national chairman of the governing NDC, Johnson Asiedu-Nkatia. The Deputy Minister for Transport, Dorcas Tofe has paid a working visit to the Jamestown fishing harbour in Accra, which has not been functioning since its commissioning in 2024. The construction of Jamestown fishing harbour began in the year 2018, but the $60 million Chinese grant project, which was expected to create employment, has not lived to its purpose. Stanley Nibleo was there and filed this report for us.
The Jamestown fishing harbour, commissioned by former President Tetteh Adu in September 2024, was designed to transform the fishing industry along the coast of British Accra. The Chinese-sponsored facility includes a ship repair yard, a cold store, a mechanical shop, a waste treatment plant, a crèche for toddlers, 40 retail shops, and a fish market, which has now recorded about 60% occupancy. However, barely 2 years after its commissioning, parts of the facility are already showing signs of corrosion. Wire mesh, roofing sheets, and other metallic components of the harbour structures are rusting away. Experts warn that the situation could worsen if authorities fail to intervene promptly. Managers of the facility say the issue is still under the supervision of the Chinese contractors responsible for the project.
Apart from the facility undergoing intense corrosion, water levels here have also declined significantly, and this situation had been attributed to climate change. But according to fishermen operating from this fishing harbour, the situation is actually impacting on their work.
Canoes that once docked safely in the harbour are now sitting on sand as water levels continue to recede. As a result, the harbour is unable to accommodate fishing trawlers and larger vessels, leaving only smaller canoes to operate.
Our interest is how to maximize the facilities here for the benefit of artisanal fishers in this country. From here, as my colleague minister has indicated, we are sitting together and see arrangements to put in place so that these facilities will be maximized.
And that was Stanley Niblewo's report. Now, aggrieved staff of the Whole Nurses Training College are demanding the return of some of its infrastructural facilities given to the University of Health and Allied Sciences, UHAS, to address the growing infrastructural problems that currently confront the college. The facilities, according to the aggrieved staff of the college, were given to the University of Health and Allied Sciences during its establishment as incubatory facilities, but several years after, the university continues to hold onto the facilities, leading to a prolonged impasse between the two institutions. Let's cross over now to the area where we understand the Lands Ministry is currently addressing the press on this challenge.
Right, and we will rectify.
We'll have to bring you that later. My colleague there, Marine Agbodza, will be bringing you that live feed very shortly as soon as we have it, actually. But let's hear some of the aggrieved nurses and their concerns.
In 2012, when the University of Health and Allied Sciences was established, government directed that some buildings belonging to the Whole Nurses Training College be used as temporary incubatory facilities. According to aggrieved staff of the college, who embarked on a street protest on Tuesday, it was agreed that these facilities will be handed back to the college once UHAS moved to its permanent sites. But 14 years on, the facilities are still being occupied and managed by UHAS, despite several attempts by the college to retrieve them.
These properties were originally built to support the effective functioning of the college and to provide accommodation and teaching space for staff and students. The properties involved include staff flats, which have now been converted into student hostel by UHAS. Lecture house belonging to the college. 3-bedroom self-contained bungalow meant for the principal.
And you heard some aggrieved trainee nurses Staff of the Ho Nurses Training College in that report. We'll bring you that response from the Lands Ministry as soon as we have the feed in our subsequent bulletins. We'll bring you details of that. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us on the Midday News today on 3FM 92.7. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Enjoy the rest of our programs.
Here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Ghana Shippers Authority warns of higher freight costs and shipping delays as U.S. Israel-Iran conflict disrupt traffic through Strait of Hormuz. And later in the bulletin, banks move to auction PBC assets after court dismisses stay threatening cocoa buying company over $300 million debt. Details of these and many other stories lined up for you. Please stay tuned. Thank you so much for your time. Now, the International Finance Corporation has commended government's move to improve women's access to finance with the creation of the Women's Development Bank. However, it says more must be done to ensure women have the resources needed to achieve financial independence. Access to finance remains a major challenge for many micro, small and medium-sized enterprises in Ghana. But the situation is often more difficult for women-led businesses. To help address this gap, the government has introduced the Women's Development Bank, aimed at providing targeted financial support to women entrepreneurs and promoting gender-inclusive economic growth. Speaking on the sidelines of the Ring the Bell for Gender Equality event, the International Financial Corporation's Division Director for West Africa and the Gulf of Guinea, Natalie Akon, said while the initiative is commendable, a more holistic approach is needed to improve women's access to finance.
Let me applaud the government for such an initiative, which is bold and necessary, especially in a country like Ghana, given the vast majority of women entrepreneurs. Is it enough? No. As I mentioned, You have to look at the entirety of barrier that women are facing. Once again, an holistic approach that is needed if we really want to tackle this issue of access to finance.
Meanwhile, Executive Director of the UN Global Compact Network Ghana, Tolu Lacrosse, said there's also a need to change perceptions about women and their potential in business.
The idea that in this kind of world we're still having the conversation or having perspective that women are not capable or it's not possible is mind-blowing to me. So I think, we need an active campaign to really change the attitudes of some of the older people in our society.
This year's event was held under the theme Equality in Financial Access, Pathways to Justice for Women and Girls, in line with the World Federation of Exchange's call for greater rights, justice and action for women and girls. Now, the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Dr. John Abdullahi Jinapor, has announced that beginning the end of March, there will be planned power disruptions to allow for the installation of 1,500 transformers aimed at reducing overload and minimizing power outages. The announcement was made at the launch of the ECG's 5-year corporate strategic plan.
The Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Dr. John Abdullahi Jinapor, explained that Ghana's power sector is at a critical moment, with electricity demand rising alongside economic growth. Underinvestment and network overload have forced the urgent procurement of new transformers.
Why are we having those outages that you are talking about? Because we are not sharing load. And it's turned out that because of years of underinvestment, a lot of the transformers are obsolete, they are overloaded, and they are unable to withstand pressure. So I've gone to lobby Minister of Finance, and he's agreed that he will support us, so that we'll procure 1,500 transformers.
Dr. Jinapor said the public should expect disruptions during the installation period.
From the end of March, you're going to see a lot of injection of transformers. That would cause a little bit of disruption, but we'll announce it, we'll pre-inform you, but bear with us when we are changing the transformers. It's for good purpose.
The minister also raised concerns over revenue collection, describing a 500 million cedi gap as alarming. Dr. John Abdullahi Jinapor directed the Electricity Company of Ghana to disconnect government agencies that fail to pay their electricity bills.
If we have a 500 to 600 million gap, that is worrying. There's this talk about government agencies. Ask him, I've given him the free will. If they don't pay, cut them. The government agencies must also do what the private sector is doing. They budget to buy cars. They budget to buy fuel. They buy telephone bills or what they all. Is a credit. They should buy electricity. It's not free for government agencies.
The acting managing director of ECG, Engineer Julius Kwame, outlined initiatives under the new strategy designed to improve revenue mobilization, stabilize operations, and enhance customer experience between 2025 and 2029.
Let's bring you more stories now. And a consortium of banks could soon begin the judicial sale of assets belonging to the produce buying company PBC after an Accra High Court dismissed the company's application for a stay of execution, clearing the way for creditors to recover debt estimated to exceed 300 million cedis. A consortium of banks may in the coming days begin processes to confiscate and auction assets belonging to the produce buying company PBC over debts exceeding 300 million cedis. This follows a decision by an Accra High Court on March 10th, 2026 to dismiss an application by the company for a stay of execution. The ruling effectively gives the green light for the banks to proceed with the judicial sale of PBC's properties to recover funds owed to them. 3 Business understands the debt stems from a loan facility granted to PBC by a consortium of banks. After the company defaulted on its repayment obligations, the banks pursued legal action with the courts in 2024 ruling in their favor and granting them the right to attach and sell the company's assets. These assets could include office buildings, warehouses, operational facilities, and vehicles used in the cocoa purchasing business. PBC had sought to halt the process through a stay of execution, but the court's latest ruling clears the path for the sale to proceed. Industry players say if the government does not intervene, the move could have significant impact for Ghana's cocoa sector, as PBC has for decades played a key role in buying cocoa for farmers and linking rural producers to the country's export market. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. And away from that, the Ghana Shippers Authority has issued a notice to importers, exporters, and other stakeholders in the country's shipping and logistics sector over emerging disruptions in global maritime trade caused by the ongoing conflict involving the United States, Israel, and Iran. According to the authority, the escalation of hostilities on 28 February 2026 has significantly disrupted maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important shipping corridors. Data from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development indicates that the strait carries about a quarter of global seaborne oil trade, significant volumes of liquefied natural gas, and roughly 1/3 of global seaborne fertilizer trade. The authority says several international shipping lines have already suspended or rerouted vessel movements through the region due to security concerns. Many vessels are now being diverted around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, a move that increases sailing distances, transit times, and overall shipping costs. The authority also notes that major carriers have introduced war risk and emergency conflict surcharges on cargo transiting the affected area. These charges are estimated at between $1,500 and $2,000 per 20-foot equivalent container, with additional fees for larger and refrigerated containers. The development is expected to increase the cost of imports into Ghana, particularly goods originating from Asia and the Middle East. The Ghana Shippers Authority is therefore advising businesses to engage closely with shipping lines and logistics providers, review insurance arrangements, and factor potential delays and cost adjustments into their planning. The authority, however, clarifies that it does not impose surcharges on behalf of shipping lines, but regulates charges by shipping service providers to ensure fairness and protects the interest of Ghanaian shippers. It also says reports that some surcharges were introduced even before the conflict began are currently under investigations. And that's how we end today's edition of Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, please visit our website as 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obudu. Thank you for tuning in. As always, please stay safe.